Alright, I'm going to do a quick video and show how. So this is my connections that come from my power distribution board. And in one of my other videos I mentioned that I might need another power connection. And I do need to be able to hook up this ubec. Which, if you don't know what this is, all it is like a power regulator. It takes the 14, well really 16 volts from the battery and cuts it down. This one actually has, if it'll focus, there it goes. So this one has a jumper here. You can pull that out and switch it. So basically this one can take up to, I think, 24 volts in, yeah, or 23 volts in. And then it outputs either 6.1 or 5.1 volts. You can switch that jumper to decide. This one has a buzzer on it, right there. So if the voltage drops too low, it will actually start buzzing, which really is unnecessary for this particular application because my flight controller has a buzzer in it as well, so it will start beeping. Plus I have a telemetry controller, so I'll be able to see the voltage on my actual controller, or not my flight controller, but my radio. But anyway, so what I did, rather than pulling the power distribution board back out and soldering yet another wire on there, because there's already quite a few wires on there. I have room for more, but it's just becoming a bit of a hassle because the more solder that gets on there and the more wires, the longer it takes to heat it up. So anyway, so I decided to do a split wire instead. So all I did was take the wire that comes out of this ubec, rather than putting just a bullet connector on it, I soldered an extra piece of wire into that bullet connector. And this is not focusing very well. But anyway, so you just take your bullet connector. It's a male bullet connector. There's your opening you put your wire in. So these wires are thinner than what these are designed for. These are, I don't know what this one is, but the one I added is a 16 gauge. So you just twist your wires together, and what I did, if you've got a helping hands, that works really well. I have one, I don't know where it is, I hadn't found it since we moved. Low-key hush. But so I just used these vice grips and clamp that in there. And I find that it's easier. Okay, so these, if it'll focus. Well, anyway, you can see that little hole right there in the side. That hole right there. So I find that you stick your soldering iron in that hole on the side, and then you stick your solder in there. So when it's sitting here, you heat up the solder to where you have just a little bowl full of melted solder. And then you take your wires and stick your wires into the solder. Will you be quiet over there? I don't know why he's over there sleeping on the concrete. We bought him a bed, but he doesn't seem to use it. As where Max loves his bed. Hey Max, he's a good boy. And that one, Loki, it's definitely a fitting name. He's a troublemaker. We've only had him for about a week now. But anyway, I digress. So, put your wires in it, in the bowl of solder, and then you want to hold it there for a minute with your soldering iron on it. That way the wires heat up too, because if you don't let the wires heat up, it's not going to make a good connection, and eventually vibrations and stuff solder's going to crack and the wires are going to pop out. So you want to make sure the wires get hot. Not too long, because then you'll start to burn away the insulation. But just enough to where a little bit of the solder will soak up into the wires just a little bit. And that's a good way to know that you've got a good connection. And then, so you do that. And I did, of course, you got your positive and negative. I ran out of the red heat shrink. I just used the last piece on this. So, I used yellow. Still got quite a bit of black. Actually, I think I'm on my last piece of this size for the Walmart brand, or well, the one that I got from Walmart. I don't know what the actual brand is, but this stuff's actually a lot better than the colored stuff. Colored ones I got from Radio Shack, they were more expensive. This stuff works a lot better. It bends around the edges a lot better, as where this does not. It just kind of sits flush. So anyway, so that's what you do. So on this will plug into there, and then my controller will plug in to the end of that. So it just gives me an extra connection, and really you can do this several times if you need to. It's like plugging Christmas lights in, where you can plug one Christmas light strand into the end of another one. It's the same basic concept. So anyway, you can do that to add, I mean, especially like these smaller items, these low voltage items, you can do that several times. You're not gonna overload these wires. You may not want to do that with like your speed controllers. If you got some heavy duty motors, you may not want to link a whole bunch of those together. But these little ubecs and the controller, those don't use up very much power. So linking a whole bunch of them together really wouldn't be an issue. I don't really know how many you would need to link together. Really, just a couple is probably going to be more than enough. Like my controller comes with its own power module. That's why it could go straight into the 14 volts from the battery, but the receiver for my radio is only a maximum of 6.5 volts in, so I had to use the ubec, because also my power module for the controller has a 12 volt out. I don't know where it is right now, but anyway, it's got a 5 volt output that powers the controller, and it's also got a 12 volt out that is made for a on-screen display chip, which I don't have one right now, but even that 12 volts would still be too much for the receiver, so that's why I gotta put this in, which I bought this just in case for that specific reason. I've got another one over here. The label came off of it. It had a label right there, but it's pretty much the same thing. This one doesn't have a buzzer, it doesn't have the jumper. I think it's a 5.1 volts only, if I remember right. I can look it up on Hobby King to see which one I bought, but I'm pretty sure that's what this one was. So I got a spare if I need it. I don't think I will. But anyway, so guess that's it for today.